worship. Today is the celebration of the Transfiguration of our Lord. And this is our last Sunday of the season of Epiphany, which, if you remember, way back at the beginning of January, began with the story of the wise men, or the magi, or whatever you want to call them, the folks from afar following a star to come find Jesus. And this whole season of Epiphany is about the light that illumines our way to who Christ is and to where we can find him. So we end with Transfiguration, and you really can't get much more light than you have in this story. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. It's pretty bright. And I think in our lives, in our world today, we need this light. Just a quick perusal of the headlines this morning, and I found a few stories that could use some light. Since January, 48 Jewish community centers in 26 states and one Canadian province have received nearly 60 bomb threats. Last weekend, one or maybe a group of people, toppled and damaged and desecrated the headstones of more than 100 Jewish folks buried in a Jewish cemetery in a suburb of St. Louis. At the end of last week, a fire that has been ruled arson was set in the Islamic Society of New Tampa. And over this weekend, Eduardo Caraballo, an American citizen born in Puerto Rico, was detained and incarcerated by Immigration and Customs Enforcement on suspicion of being an illegal immigrant, even though he had a birth certificate and a state-issued ID. We also have heard word that transgender folks need to rely on the rights of their states to determine their human rights. States' rights, of course, has been used previously in our country's history for slavery, segregation, Jim Crow. There is darkness in our world, and so it is good today for us to hear about the light. So let us take some time to go up on this mountain with Jesus. Let us take some time for Jesus to lead us up out of these darknesses, these troubles of the world, and find a place of sanctuary, of escape, of peace. Let us have some transcendent experience of the divine in our lives. Jesus almost never goes anywhere alone. He's always taking folks with him like he did today, or even if he tries to go alone, people end up finding him, following him, or meeting him there. Jesus takes us with him in his ministry, and Jesus does, in fact, call us to find times of mountaintop transcendence. Jesus calls us up there to see what happens in the high points of our lives and the high points of our spiritual journeys. And wouldn't that just be such a lovely place to stay? Wouldn't that be a great place to build a little tent and hang out for a while? But Jesus does not stay there, and God does not want us to stay there. As soon as Peter begins to suggest having an extended stay, some sort of permanent encampment, the voice of God, rudely you could say, interrupts him with some powerful and frightening instructions. This is my son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. Listen to him, God says. And so this is what Jesus says that we are to listen to. This is what Jesus does that we are to pay attention to. Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." Jesus came to them. Jesus touched them. He tells them to get up, and he tells them not to be afraid. And then he walks with them back down the mountain. The sparkling, awe-inspiring, transcendent moment of God has passed, but Jesus, the Christ, still walks with them. We go up the mountain, hopefully when we gather on Sundays, and other times too. I'm sure most of you have had some other sort of mountaintop experience, if you think about it. I know for some, that experience of God's presence is on literal mountaintops, out in nature, surrounded by all that God has created and called good. For others, your mountaintops might not be a physical geological formation, but an interaction with someone, or an activity of some sort in which you find yourself feeling that shining light of God's glory filling your life, perhaps even shining so strongly as to make it difficult to see. But none of us, if we listen to the words of Jesus, if we listen to the call of God, can stay forever in those mountaintop moments. And even when we try, we find that they pass on their own. But we want to stay there because it's so powerful, it's so peaceful, and it's so clear to see the presence of God in those moments. But we cannot stay. Not even Jesus can stay there. He has another mountain to get to. And as we begin our Lenten journey this Wednesday with ashes on our foreheads, we will remember that other mountain. Not one we'd like to stay on, for sure, but also one that Jesus doesn't stay on. This mountain this morning, though, is such a good place. We want to build structures and stay put. We want to find a place to settle in and be with God and never have to leave. But, despite our current location, we are not called to build buildings. We are not called to settle in at a particular place where we once found God. Because after God speaks, the disciples look up and find that only Jesus remains with them, and the transcendent moment has passed. We are called to something other than settling in. We are called to something other than a particular building or location. We are called to a journey. We are called up the mountains, but also back down them. We are called to walk on paths that are sometimes straight and level and easy, but also sometimes rocky and twisting and dangerous. Today's passage from Matthew comes immediately after Jesus tells the disciples this: "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose it for my sake will find it." Unfortunately, it is not our calling as Christians to avoid suffering. It is not God's promise to us to eliminate all suffering from our lives if we just do the right combination of tasks. We are on a journey as followers of Christ, and that journey will include suffering. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody here. Not even God avoided the suffering of humanity, as we will again hear in the coming weeks of our Lenten journey and the sorrow of Good Friday. There is nothing we can do to save ourselves from suffering, and there is plenty of it to go around. But there is also nothing we can do to shield ourselves or be separated from the light of God that sheds hope on our darkest moments. The brilliant light of Jesus' transfiguration, the bright light of the cloud from which we hear the voice of God, the shining star of Epiphany that illumines the path to find Jesus. It shines on us all, and we cannot be shielded from it by our own actions, nor the actions of anyone else. That light of hope shines on us and strengthens us and rejuvenates us even when we are not up on those mountaintops, even when we are deep in the valleys of suffering. So, where do we see that light shining hope on us? Well, today, in this time and this place, I think it's very easy to see that light shining. It streams through the windows of our church, and it burns in the Paschal candle by the font, and it brightens the baptism that we are about to celebrate. As we formally welcome Ted as our brother in Christ, as we promise to take care of him, and remember that in that promise, we also promise to take care of each and every one of our siblings in Christ. It illumines the social hall downstairs, where after worship, I am very excited to say, we will be sharing food with our Muslim sisters from the Peace Islands Institute, and we will build bridges of understanding and friendship in the face of a world rife with the suffering and evil of Islamophobia. It radiates out from the bread and the wine that we will share in a little while, the body and blood of our Christ, who walks with us on our way through the suffering, offering us the strength and power of his own life as sustenance for our journey. The light that shines on the mountain of Jesus' transfiguration is a light that illumines every moment of our lives. Our world is suffering. Many of us are suffering in our own lives as well. And we are strengthened by those mountaintop moments that we might find. But our journey as followers of Jesus never ends on the mountaintop. Because Jesus comes to us, Jesus touches us, and Jesus tells us to get up, and Jesus comforts us in our fear. Amen.